Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Kickin' with Karan. Today we have Alison Miller from Oracle for Research. Hi Alison, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Karan, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a quick intro about yourself, what you do, how long you've been here at Oracle, etc.
So I have been at Oracle for a very long time. I started originally in 1992. I've had a
Oh
whole
my
bunch
God.
of, yeah, I know. It's I was 12 when I started, so
So you're a
um,
lifer then. You're a lifer, right?
I'm afraid I am at this point, but it's actually been an amazing place to kind of grow up professionally. I've had a whole bunch of different jobs ranging from the legal department all the way to tech support, worked for alliances and channels. And really, I think I've been very fortunate to have the best jobs at Oracle for really the past 10 years or so. I was leading Oracle Academy, and then I moved over, and now I'm looking after a program called Oracle for Research, which we have built out specifically to support academic researchers and empower them with the Oracle Cloud so that they get better results faster.
Yeah, why don't you tell me a little bit about Oracle startups in terms of what the program entails? Who's the right sort of candidate for that kind of research project? What do they get in terms of benefits, perhaps, when they join us?
So really the program is focused on supporting researchers who work for academic universities or for not-for-profit research institutions. Really anybody with a project that can be done or that can be scaled down to accomplish major goals within a year is eligible to apply. We provide them with cloud credits that are scoped to an amount to match the project that we accept. We give them hands-on consulting, technical mentoring to really help them not just use the cloud credits in a sort of a haphazard way, but get up and running and really run in an optimized configuration to get their work done.
Cool, that's interesting. So one of the things that I've noticed also is that with a lot of the projects that come through research, there's a lot of cutting edge tech that's associated with it, right? What are some of the things that people are doing on Oracle Cloud from a I guess feature set or things that are a little bit more cutting edge that actually help us develop our products better, but also helps them develop their solution better, right?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really important thing to understand, right? Researchers are really interesting to Oracle, not just because of the research work they're doing, but because they use our cloud in ways that commercial customers might not. And a lot of them really will push it absolutely to the limits. So some of them are using HPC. We did a really interesting project with Royal Holloway University in the UK. They are working on a climate change issue and doing modeling of underground aquifers and the porosity of the rock in those aquifers to determine where we could capture and sequester carbon emissions for the longest time period, right? And there are a whole bunch of complications when you're doing this kind of research. First of all, you're using scanned images of real rock in using 3D microtomography, which I always have to slow down and say slowly. And then you're also trying to project out tens of thousands of years, right? So it's not like we're just trying to figure out what the numbers look like next quarter. So they actually started off trying to use a bare metal cluster. They used a software package called Phoenix. And it turns out that Phoenix actually can't work on a bare metal cluster. So we did some really interesting work with them to try to optimize a configuration that would work with the software package that they needed to work on our hardware. And the end result was that what they were doing on-prem in 47 hours, we were able to do in our HPC cloud in 20 hours. So we really more than cut it in half.
So beyond just sort of the technology aspect of it, what's the end goal here? I mean, of course, there's the research and there's betterment from a community perspective, right? Is our goal to just sort of continue to do that? Is our goal to help them maybe commercialize in the future? Are there some other potential angles here that some of that research ends up being at?
Sure. Yeah. I think any end strategy is probably interesting to us. In some cases, we've got academic researchers who really just want to stay academic researchers. But one of the advantages of being a sister program to Oracle for Startups is that we can help them, if it is an idea that might be commercializable or might be interesting, we can actually help connect them to innovators who might want to commercialize it and help create a bridge that might make that technology or result move into the marketplace.
Larry is very, obviously, he's, when it comes to some of these projects like startups and research and academia, I feel like he's very involved in some of these projects. One of the ones that I saw was the Alison Institute. And I know he's got some cancer research also happening in the background. What can you talk about Larry's involvement in some of the research that's going on?
Well, Larry has famously said that he would really like to be part of the team that cures cancer. And I think some of the work that we're doing with the Alison Institute is really aiming to help hopefully realize that vision at some point. He is very connected with Dr. Agus, who is actually the founder of the Alison Institute, and I know they talk very often. We on the research side have been working with a gentleman named Dr. Ruderman, Dan Ruderman at the Alison Institute, who's doing work to if it goes as planned, we could actually democratize the way they diagnose and treat breast cancer, which is really exciting. So we may not cure it, but I think we can make some really significant improvements in any case.
That's very interesting. I mean, those are the kinds of, I guess, world-changing things. You think of Oracle as a database company, but you don't realize some of the projects that we're really involved in, right? What are some of the other interesting, research projects similar to like the Alison Institute you talked about? The weather forecasting on the university in UK. Are there any others you want to talk about?
Well, we've got a number of different projects going. Some of them I can't actually talk about yet because the researchers haven't written their papers yet. So, they're— You
want to break any news over here?
No, exactly. I don't want to get in trouble for that. But we are doing some really interesting stuff on the COVID side. One of the really interesting COVID projects that was also done using Oracle HPC actually is the modeling of molecular dynamics of COVID proteins, which Adrian Mulholland at University of Bristol did, and he talked about that in June. And it's actually really interesting when you think about COVID. You don't even think about molecular dynamics playing any sort of role in the vaccine, right? We tend to think at a much bigger level as lay people about that. Just a fascinating presentation about a different way of coming at finding treatments for COVID.
Cool. So I'm a researcher, one-off in a garage. How do I get involved? What do I do?
It's actually quite easy. For anybody who's ever had to write a grant for funding, it's way easier than that. And there's an online application. It's about 4 pages long. It basically asks for some information we would need to set up a cloud tenancy and then an understanding of the project that's being proposed.
Awesome. So basically we provide everything.
To get going and actually throughout the project. One really important thing, Karan, just to point out, because I get to ask this question a lot, is are we interested in their data? How do we use the research data that gets put into our
data
cloud?
Privacy, security, right.
Totally. We don't use the data. The data is the researchers' data. We don't crawl it. No one's going to get an ad for COVID medicine because they put COVID data in our cloud to do research on it. And really, I don't have to tell you, but our security in our cloud is top notch. And every researcher is set up in a regular commercial tenancy, so they get the same protections any regular customer would.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this is a very brief conversation. I'm sure we could talk about this all day. And in fact, some of the projects that we worked on are just super interesting, and that's all we want to do. But thanks again. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much.